It's really funny. A lot of people are like, wow, isn't New Zealand super expensive? Like, how are you affording that? And my rent is cheaper here. Eating out is cheaper here. Everything's cheaper here than living in Southern California or the Bay Area, besides gasoline and grocery prices. Going to the
Mm,
grocery is insane. Limes cost like $40 a kilogram. Like, what the fuck is that? And garlic is like 25 a kg.
that
Meanwhile, like eating out at restaurants is way cheaper than eating out at restaurants in California. So,
that is weird. How about
yeah,
electronics? Electronics got to be expensive too. Nah?
electronics not bad,
Hmm.
no. And then my rent is significantly cheaper than it was in
Right.
the States.
Right.
You
Significant.
are comparing it to one of the pricier areas,
That,
though.
that that's
Just
why I
saying.
say it's funny because like I came from a really pricey area in the
Right.
Yeah,
States. So when
yeah,
people say that, I'm like, well, compared to Idaho, sure, everything's more
yes,
expensive.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I said the same thing, man, when I came from Arlington, DC area out to like East Bay, and I was like, it's actually kind of cheaper here, to be honest, than it is in DC. DC ain't cheap, man.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Well,
As far as you know, you said you're hiking, hanging out with the dog. Obviously, you're hanging with your best friend. Any moments, experiences, or things that you've like really enjoyed over the last handful of months that you just feel like is way different, other than the scenery? We know that scenery; it's just a beautiful place. And any thoughts there, or you kind of covered it all with the doggo and the hikes?
The biggest difference to me is the dog culture here. Like in the States, if you're off leash with your dog and it runs up to someone, like they're like, "Oh, what the fuck is this? Why is it off leash? Whose owner is this? What an asshole." Here it's like, "Oh, look at the cute little puppy. Like, where's your owner? Let's talk it out." Like it's dope. But full disclosure, I haven't gone out much. One, I got sick twice, which floored me for 2 weeks each.
Right.
Two, like it's been winter here. Like I got here midwinter, and the Kiwis hibernate during winter. They don't go out. There's nothing going on during the winter. They all chill, which is very interesting. Everybody talks about summer during the winter. They're like, oh, just wait till the summer. It's gonna be the most epic summer. We got all of these things to do. It's gonna be fucking blah. So really looking forward to getting out more. Like I don't go out much in general. Like I've never been much of a social bug, go party all the time. I would like to get out a bit more than I have currently. But in terms of things that have really stood out, there's three things. One, which I touched on, is the scenery, and I'll expand on that to say, in the States, you can get to mountains, you can get to beach, you can get to city, you can get to rolling green hills, right? Those all exist in the States, but they don't exist in the same vicinity. You're
Right.
having to drive hours and hours and hours to get to one of them, and
Hmm.
then hours and
Hmm.
hours and hours to get to the next one.
Right.
Here, you turn around 360 and you see pretty much all of that. Like I
Yeah.
can see downtown Auckland from my house. I can see the beach from my house. I look the other way. I can see rolling green hills from my house. I drive 30 minutes one way. I can hike up a epic mountain,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so I really love the convenience and flexibility to get out and have these different experiences in nature. Like you can walk through the jungle one day, you can walk by the beach another day. And the beaches are like the most epic beaches you've ever seen,
Yeah.
and you're also solo on all of these hikes. Like you'll maybe see a couple people while you're going for hours.
Right.
Whereas in the
mm,
States,
yeah.
find a hot spot, it's gonna be crowded. You're not gonna feel like you're disconnecting and getting out in nature. Here you lose service like 30 minutes, or not 30 minutes, like 10 minutes out from getting to the location, and then you can't be on your phone. You
Right.
can't connect with people. You can't like do all these things.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
that.
So I really like that aspect of it. The other thing that's really stood out, there's two other things. One, the food culture here is phenomenal. The
Yeah.
food just tastes so much better. All fronts. Yes, some groceries are more expensive, but like going out, talking to that specifically,
Hmm.
the food is so good. It just tastes fresher. It doesn't feel like there's all this crap in it. And even if you go out and have fast food one night, you don't wake up the next day feeling like shit from it. And I actually drilled into that with a buddy here who, like, in high school was working at, they call it Macca's, which is McDonald's,
Yeah.
right? And they did a comparison between the ingredients in a Big Mac in the States versus the ingredients in a Big Mac in Auckland.
Yeah.
And the list in the States was like this long, and the list in Auckland was like this long. And
Yep.
so just like the feeling of I can eat whatever I want and feel great about it and honestly feel really good afterwards is
Yeah.
amazing because I'm a foodie. I love to eat. Like that's what I spend my money on is
Yeah.
food and getting to remote locations. Um,
For sure. Well,
the
you're in a
third
good
part,
spot then.
yeah, the third part is the people, man. I love the people here. The Kiwis are awesome. They're so nice. They're not full of shit. They'll say whatever's on their mind to you, no matter who you are and no matter who they are. And I think something I just crack up to point to this scenario specifically. My buddy and I went out to this place called the Waitomo Caves last weekend, which is basically a whole slew of different caves about 2 hours outside of Auckland. Um, and we had a guide who was probably like this 20-year-old girl, right? She was guiding us through this cave, and we get to this point where she's talking about the glowworms inside of the cave. If you haven't heard of glowworms, go look them up. Crazy little creature, crazy looking in the caves. And Jack and I were the only two people who were like similar to her age. The rest of it was like tourists, like older folk from America, maybe older folk from New Zealand, like, a little bit, you would think they would be a little bit more respectful and formal in those scenarios. And she's talking about these glowworms. She's like, yeah, for however many weeks they're doing this. And then they just screw constantly for 2 weeks and then they die. And I was like, I was not expecting that on a tour with all these like old folk behind us, and she's talking about these worms screwing. Like she used that word. I was just like, it's just so bizarre. But you can just tell there's no filter and there's no need to filter because there's no real judgment felt from people for saying what you think here, right?
Right.
And I
Right.
think there's a word that probably pops into everybody's mind when you think of Australia and New Zealand, and it's true. I mean, that is said everywhere by everybody, and it's fucking great. I love that. So the people here, the accents, people are nice, they're real, and it's just people are proud to live here too, in a way that doesn't feel uh, uh, like aggressive. They're proud of New Zealand, they're proud of Maori culture, they're proud of keeping the place clean, and it's not really divisive. It's not you don't really have people on either side going at it all the time. It's not very political. So